Hi, this is Mark Meir, the voice of Commander Shepard, and you're tuned in to the EnteR ChazmaN podcast, my favorite podcast on the Citadel. ChazmaN and Phoenix, let the conversations begin. To the Normandy.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? EnteR ChazmaN here. We're back with another week of the EnteR ChazmaN podcast. As always, this is your favorite place to get all of your nerdy gaming news about what has happened. The
assumption there, Chaz. Favorite?
Well, hey, I ain't lying, right, guys? That's right. So yeah, this is your favorite place to get all of your Phoenix apologies for having us skip a week. So go ahead, Phoenix. Go ahead and apologize.
No, I don't feel bad at all. No, I actually did miss talking about stuff, but you know, life. This is, without going into a whole lot of detail, this is my crazy, busy season in life. So yeah, you know, do what I can.
Oh, it's totally okay. I fully understand. Actually, a quick thing I just wanted to say, guys. If the off chance of this happening again, I mean, feel free to let me know what you guys would like me to do. Phoenix is incredibly busy, and you know this may happen occasionally. What would you guys like? Would you guys like me to try and find another co-host? Would you like me to do some sort of random offshoot? Maybe I could do another little thing with just me, kind of like what I did with the Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Maybe I could find something else I love and just go off on that for half an hour, 45 minutes. But yeah, again, feel free. Let me know down in the comments, and I am your vessel for entertainment.
I think you should just post a video of you doing some interpretive dance.
Oh, do I have DDR? I could just play DDR.
You just gotta mimic some of the dancing routines from the Mass Effect club scenes. Do your best Commander Shepard dance.
Do the Shepard? I could do that. I don't even remember what his dance is. I think he just
like steps a little to the right, steps a little to the left. Back to the right.
That's right.
That's totally my dance, though. I can't judge.
Before we get into it, guys, I would just like to say once again, up above, I will have these are the platforms that we are available in terms of audio podcasts. So if you'd like, check us out there. And if you don't know, YouTube, of course, is where I'm going to be posting all of our main podcast episodes. And I'll also, if you don't know, I post weekly, kind of a more, I don't want to say more heavily edited videos of our highlights. So check those out there.
Now, if you're a real fan, you'll download every platform and listen to us over and over and over again on every platform.
Mm-hmm. Something new we wanted to start doing with you guys this week is, from here on out to start, as like a nice little icebreaker, I had the idea of us kind of just coming out and talking about something that we've been playing or something new we experienced during the week. I guess, actually, Phoenix, what about you? Was there something you played, watched, experienced that you wanted to talk about just for a few minutes?
No, you're going first. That was how we planned this, but we keep to the structure, Chaz. You go first.
Okay, I'll listen. This is your show. For me, I played the game Tunic, which was something I have actually really been looking forward to playing coming from Microsoft for the last few years. The thing that really kind of stings about this game is I've been looking forward to playing it for a very long time, and something weird was just before the game came out, I saw the first reviews, and the first reviews like immediately gave me a red flag, especially for someone like me who kind of dipped their toes into Elden Ring and immediately kind of backed away. I saw Ryan McCaffrey's review on IGN for Tunic, and he said it was what did he say? Oh, I should have pulled it up. But yeah, he just kind of compared it to Elden Ring, and that immediately for me was like, what am I getting myself into? And it basically almost played out like Elden Ring. Although I will say, the little bit I did play of Tunic, I enjoyed much more than Elden Ring. And Phoenix, once again, feel free to stop me if there's any kind of questions you had about the game. I don't think it's something you've touched on or maybe had any or didn't mention any interest in.
Surprise, I actually played Tunic.
Did you really?
Yeah. I I decided to play it last night for like 2 hours. So I think I actually got further than you did. I didn't watch your whole stream.
I made it to the west. I think it was like the west garden. There was some sort of garden off to the left side.
Yeah, I saw the tail end of your last stream. I know you kind of you noped out when you got to those 3 gators. So I went just past that. And right after that, it's actually, you stopped a little too soon, because the first like real boss of the game is right after that. So I was very curious to see
the reviews I saw. I saw there was some big boss battle with a garden thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead and take your perspective on it, and then I'll tell you what I think.
I found myself actually loving the game. Like I kind of liked. I think I'll just say my favorite part was there's a part where you go down underneath. Like you played this part to get to where you were at, but there was a part where you go underneath and you need like this lamp. Like it definitely has, you know, semblances of like Zelda dungeons and stuff like that, which I actually really appreciate. The overworld kind of part is really cool. I mean, I guess a cool part and bad part about it is like I feel like a lot of it is very very obtuse. I mean, I don't know, that's probably a pretty obvious thing, seeing as how like the map, all of the notes and everything you can kind of collect is in a different language. So it's intentionally obtuse. Like I'm not saying anything. To me, its obtuseness isn't necessarily a huge negative. I feel like it's definitely something that was planned. It is something that is, you know, integral to the game design. I feel like I just played it at a bad time, coming off of Elden Ring, and I don't know, Elden Ring. Go ahead.
I'll tell you, like, so I mean, I agree with, you know, it is kind of it doesn't hold your hand for a whole lot, but at the same time, I kind of think that was the strength of this game. Like, some games are obtuse to the point where you can't figure out where to go next and what to do. I never felt that way in this game. Like, yeah, there was nothing, like, I didn't know where I was going half the time, but the game was always leading me to the next thing. So even though I didn't know I was going to end up, you know, finding a lantern and going underground and doing whatever, the way the game just kind of naturally flows and pulls you to different areas, I never felt like I was stuck or didn't know where I should be going. Like, it always gave you a pretty clear avenue on where to move. So yeah, obtuse, but not in a way that I think, you know, that it made it hard to play the game. It was just kind of open as far as, you know, not showing you or leading you by the nose saying, okay, you have to do this and you have to do that. It kind of just flowed very well.
I agree. I don't think it didn't really come off as like hard or confusing. There wasn't really much anything like that. I think for me it was just that one section was those gators. Like, those gators were kicking the crap out of me, and I tried running past them, and the one time I tried doing that, they chase you throughout the entire level. How
often did you use your shield? I didn't watch a whole lot of your stream, but were you guarding at all?
Yeah, I was guarding. Apparently there's actually parrying in the game, which I didn't know.
Yeah, if you time it right. Like, I didn't have an issue. Like, I didn't... Okay, so I know you're going to go on about how like the game had a difficulty spike and whatnot. The game, to me, never really felt all that tricky. Like, when you understand kind of just... You can't just run out there and just start swinging at everything. You have to kind of, you know, take your time, look for your shots, and move away. I never felt like it got overwhelming. I mean, there was... I think the first time I actually had any like struggle at all with the combat was probably that first boss that you didn't get to quite yet. Like, those gators, I ran through the first time. I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm a great gamer or anything, but maybe it's just I had a better feel for kind of the combat and how it worked. Did you use any of like the extra items, like the bombs or anything like that?
I used all those. The bombs I felt like did really good for those like sentinel like things, the things that shot the ice and the fire. I felt like those worked really good on those. They work pretty much good on anything, pretty much, those firecracker things. I mean,
this game is definitely something where each enemy, you do have to understand its pattern. And if you come at this game with the idea of, oh, it's going to be a Zelda-like kind of thing, you're, I think, going with the wrong kind of expectation. Honestly, besides the game kind of looking like an old-school Zelda, it didn't really play like a Zelda to me for the most part.
No, it's mainly a thematic.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's probably closer to like maybe like Zelda 1, maybe in that regard. I
actually got a lot of I got a lot of Death's Door vibes the little bit I played.
Yeah, like the game's very much about exploration. At least for what I play, I didn't play much further than you did, so I maybe have like 2 hours, maybe a little more than that in the game. It didn't have a lot in the way of like puzzles and whatnot, so like that element of the Zelda aspect wasn't there.
That I actually really liked, because, I mean, I hate puzzles. I don't hate, I'm just not good at them. I don't know.
No, I understand. I enjoy a good puzzle, but I mean that wasn't a negative to the game. I think it was something that I didn't quite anticipate, because I think I was thinking this was gonna be more of a one-to-one kind of Zelda clone, and really it's not what it is. It's got some bones of Zelda, but it's really kind of its own thing. I think the correlation or the comparisons people have done to a Dark Souls-like game where you have to really kind of understand your enemies is valid, but I don't think it's like because the game is hard. It's just, okay, you have to realize that when you go to fight an enemy, you don't just run in there and start wailing on him. You have to understand when he's going to hit, how he's going to attack, when to move. Not that I think it's like a difficulty thing. It's just more you have to understand that style of gameplay.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, again, I really liked the actual world it took place in, and there is a bit of like intrigue. Like, I was fairly intrigued into what was happening. Like, I don't know, you see that adult fox or whatever that was in that like dreamlike section. I'm assuming it's...
I felt more opposite there. I mean, I thought it was interesting visually, but this is where I think maybe the obtuseness or the vague storytelling kind of lost me a little bit. Like, up to the point where I played in the game, and maybe you caught something I didn't even know what we were doing. Like, what was our goal, our objective? I mean, I know we were trying to like access certain parts of the map, but I didn't know why. I assumed
your goal was to free whatever that thing was. I was assuming it was like a parent or something. I don't know. That was assumptions mainly.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was just too early in the game to really have a good feel for it. But at that point, I felt like the narrative to me was probably the weakest aspect of it. It was a little too open. I mean, it was visually nice, but as far as like understand what my objective was and giving me that kind of urgency to go and complete something wasn't there. Granted, I didn't really need that in this game. Like a lot of games, you want to get to the next spot so you can, unlock the next gate or free the next whatever. This game, after a while, I kind of got into like a zen state. I think the music kind of added to that, and like the general aesthetic.
I love the music. Like I even like apologized in my couple streams. I was like, sorry guys, I normally try and chat a little bit more, but like the game was kind of lulling me into like the music was, I felt like was kind of lulling me into like a very passive state. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah, that's a good
way to describe it. No, it does. Like kind of a zen, kind of serene. Like when you kind of click with the combat, I feel like when you kind of understand like the patterns and you're not like stressing out about the combat, the way the gameplay and the level design and the music just kind of pushes you through the world. Like I just felt like I was just moving and didn't even like realize I was moving, if that makes sense. Like
it's a total like zone out.
Pulled me along.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice, and that's why I think it was such like a weird juxtaposition. Like when you get to that boss, and you should play long enough to get to that boss. It's literally like 10 minutes after you stopped. Then the game changes like completely. Like it is no longer zen by any means. That first boss. Did you even watch a video of it or anything?
I did. It's like some kind of garden giant creature. So I don't remember what it was.
I think this is probably more where like the Dark Soul comparison really kind of comes into play, because it is very much about dodge rolling, learning his pattern, getting a few hits, jumping away, and coming back. Like, it wasn't like incredibly hard, like once you kind of learn the patterns, but it was tricky. It took me a good, probably 10 or 15 tries to like really get it down. But here's, I think, one thing that I really think helped the difficulty aspect. Like whether you think, the game was just hard, all the way through or just at certain points, I never felt like a game really ever punished you, even though the game was hard. Like, if you ended up dying, you didn't really lose much. You lost some, its equivalent to rupees. Yeah, but you kept all your progress. Like, if you had picked up an item, you kept the item. Major enemies stayed dead, stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucked, but at the same time, it didn't really impact me like, oh man, I'm now frustrated that I don't want to continue playing. Like, I would just repeat that section. There was always like a shortcut to the next area or a save point close by. So even though I guess, you could argue that depending on how you feel about that gameplay, yeah, it got more difficult at certain points, I don't feel like it was ever really punishing in that regard. Like I would imagine like a Dark Souls, like true Dark Souls experience. I guess maybe your experience like Elden Ring, you probably felt a lot more punished, like as you didn't do well, like you weren't able to kind of make any progress. But this game I just never really felt like that. I always felt like I was moving forward in some way, or the game was at least not beating me over the head just because I made a mistake.
And I do feel like you've kind of maybe remotivated me. I felt more guilty about giving up on this game than I did Elden Ring. Elden Ring for me felt like giving up on that game kind of felt like I was saving myself from something, whereas when I gave up on this game, I actually kind of was like, man, I was really enjoying that. Like I was kind of curious to see more. So yeah, that's kind of.
You came off of it probably with just a sour taste in your mouth.
Coming off of Elden Ring, yeah.
And I'm not saying this game. I mean, this game, I can understand where you could see a challenge in it. It is not like an easy old school Zelda where you just kind of run and hack and slash at stuff. Like, you've got to take your time and pick your moments to attack and learn how to use your items. But it's really just learning the game. Like with anything, the more you learn the mechanics and how the combat works, I think the difficulty is balanced. At least for what I've played so far, pretty well. I'll tell you my favorite part of the entire game though, the friggin' instruction manual. I think that is the coolest.
It's very
thing.
much like a manual from old NES games.
Oh yeah, it brought me back, man. And I guess you could argue that's kind of annoying that you have to pick it up page by page, but I really liked that. You kind of, because it also serves as kind of your mini map in some ways. We can look for secrets and whatnot, and it has little tips and tricks on how to defeat certain enemies. And I don't know, I just think it was really, really clever. The art on it was nice. The way you can use it to kind of check your stats even was just a really cool touch. So favorite part was definitely that.
Okay, well, there you go. That at least gave us a few minutes to kind of talk about that. Once again, I do feel like I think you may have reinvigorated me to possibly give it another try. Maybe Friday night, Saturday night, I might try one more stream just to see if I can kind of get past that one part, because I do feel like the frustration of Elden Ring might have just made me a little bit less patient with this game.
That's fair. No, I get that. Well, I'm glad that I have reinvigorated you, as gross as that may sound.
Well, I've still been playing Pokemon every night, so I'm
I finally fell off. I think I had pretty much done everything I needed to in that game for a while, so but I'll hop back in if they throw more DLC. I'll tell you, I'm not immune to the crack. So,
but yeah, I'll give the game one more shot, because honestly, another reason why I may have gave up on it is I kind of wanted to go straight into Guardians, but I kind of do want to give the game one more shot before I go into Guardians, so maybe I'll do that this weekend at some point.
How long is Tunic?
I heard it's 10 to 15.
Okay, it's not too bad.
Yeah, that's what Brian McCaffrey, I think he put 10 to 15 hours.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, from my basis on what I played is probably about as much as I'd want to play of this game. Like, I'm enjoying it, but I will say the combat is kind of samey. Doing it for much longer than that, I think I'd probably get bored of the game. But I don't know. From what I played so far, I've enjoyed it. I'm not in love with it or anything, but I think because you had such kind of a negative taste to it, I don't know. I thought it was interesting that I kind of took complete kind of different shift on my perspective of it. I
really enjoyed the little bit, and moving on from something I actually really loved and really enjoyed and would recommend. Let's move straight into the poop show right now that apparently is Gran Turismo 7. Once again, we're going to rag on this game just a little bit, but I will preface, as far as I know, me and Phoenix have not played this game or have not touched it, so I guess we don't have first-hand knowledge, but I don't know, maybe second-hand knowledge is almost just as educational.
Here's the thing, my critiques on this game have nothing to do with the game. I think this is less about this being, Gran Turismo or a racing game, and just more,
the model, you mean?
Yeah, the way they've kind of gone about. I mean, I know you're going to get into it, but just the general structure of how they released this game and some of the issues that it has. I don't think it's indicative of the game itself being bad.
I'm sure it's a fantastic playing game.
Yeah, and I think that's what's probably so disappointing about it. And you see this happen all the time, but you come across a game that is at its core a solid game, and you can clearly see there were some publisher hands or higher ups that kind of snuck in there and forced it to go some weird directions as far as maybe how it was implemented or its online kind of.
There's actually a quote I want to bring up too that kind of leans into that a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
But yeah, so let's switch over just a little bit. Go away, Tunic. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of start here. I mean, throughout the week, I've kind of been hearing a bunch of different things from guys like Angry Joe, Yongya. I don't believe SkillUp, I think, is a little bit behind. I know, for some reason, SkillUp, because he does his, all new stuff, and I don't know, I'm making this about Skillup, but he's always seems to be behind the big stuff. The other guys, because I think they put out like individual videos per week, and Skillup always does his one roundup video. I don't know.
Possibly. I know he also didn't see he had like a big flood in his house or something, so I know he's a little behind on stuff. I think he mentioned.
Did he mention? He might have mentioned.
Sure about GT7 and his most recent little gamer wrap.
Maybe he did. He might not have had it in the title though. I don't know. But yeah, I guess we'll go back. I mean, this game apparently, I guess from what it seems like, they pretty much have most of the major horrible forms of like microtransactions, and it just seems like they totally run the gambit of ways to kind of make progression like horrible. Apparently the game is really grindy. There was even a quote, I don't remember if I saw, where was the quote there, but yeah, I guess the quote, it was just about, oh, this guy, he's just a esports player. So even people within the esports community are kind of ragging on a lot of the microtransactions and how long it's taken to play the game. There's things like fear of missing out based, timed microtransactions. There's roulette wheels, which, what the heck does, what does that have to do with cars? I think they did that in the latest 2K games too, the basketball ones, where...
To be fair, well, for what it sounds like, a lot of those things are also issues in Forza too. Like, Forza had a roulette kind of unlock system to earn certain
Did it really?
cars.
I didn't play it, so...
And it also had, it had plenty of FOMO. Like every week, if you don't complete enough seasonal things, and you could miss out on certain cars that are available that week. I remember when I played it during the first window, I grinded like crazy so I could get DeLorean because Back to the Future.
Well, that's an interesting thing to bring up, because then you start asking the question of, why
here's
is
the difference.
GT7 getting ragged on?
The economy inside of Forza was much more player friendly. Like, yeah, you had these things that, were kind of weird offshoots for how you'd unlock cars, but you also had a good opportunity to earn credits in the game. You could sell your own cars, like, to other players and make stuff. So it gave you a lot of other avenues to kind of bolster that economy.
There's no cars that go upwards of $200 to purchase?
Well, not with real... I mean, I haven't looked at the actual DLC model, microtransactions for Forza in a while, but the way that game works is you can kind of earn your own money a bunch of other ways and use that to buy the cars you want. I don't know if you could pay real money for... I know they had, like, car packs, but I can't remember if you could buy actual cars.
In GT7 or Forza?
Forza.
Oh, okay.
I know in GT7 that's kind of the issue, is you have to buy the credits to be able to, I think it's a similar model in some ways. It sounds like the issue is like GT7's just shifted the economy so poorly in favor of, pushing you to want to buy with real world money.
And apparently GT7 for a lot of those, because it's like the Destiny model. Well, we're super familiar with the Destiny model because that's where we probably played the most in terms of. But it's very much that same model where like you pay money to get the in-game currency to be able to put it towards the car, but they have like the tiers of currency you can buy, and apparently the tiers you're always buying more currency than you need for said item, and I from what I've read, that's something that kind of bothers people, where it's like oh, we need 3,000 credits to buy this thing, but you can only buy like 5,000 credits. You can't buy just 3. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the thing is, GT7 is not the first game to do that. I mean, plenty of other games do. I mean, Halo does that. Like, their goal is to, try to get you to spend more money. So I understand how they structure that. Yeah. I think probably what leaves the worst taste in my mouth about this is not so much that, okay, it has microtransactions. Yes, the microtransactions are crappy, and that, that sucks. But that's kind of par for the course right now with so many other games. What I think is crappy, and I think I'm starting to see this more and more as a trend, is, from what I understand, when the reviewers had this game, none of this was in there. Like, the microtransactions weren't live, so they couldn't really gauge that economy, and they were just, basing it on the gameplay, which
they were
that's
given
really
a more user-friendly version of the game.
Yeah, so all the reviews came out super favorable because this whole, tarnishing micro transaction economy wasn't really in existence at that point. And then as soon as the reviews go live, the switch flips. And that's just such a scummy practice because, I mean, I guess you could argue it's not, gameplay that's being reviewed, it's this microtransaction system, but your enjoyment of a game comes down to how well, this microtransaction economy affects your day-to-day play. And it sounds like it's affecting how you earn cars in such a way where you can't earn cars reasonably by just playing the game for so long. You have to go and actually spend your money. And I think that's just a really scummy practice. There was some other game I know that did that a while ago, but this is just the most recent one. I feel like that's honestly a more concerning industry trend, because it's giving studios and publishers this rationale for, well, let's just hide certain things about our game and then just flip a switch after we get the Metacritic score we want. I don't know. That's really concerning to me.
No, I totally agree. And unfortunately, there's it doesn't just end there. I mean, you've got, apparently there was a recent update that they launched when the game first came out, and apparently that reduced in-game rewards drastically for a game that people were already criticizing as being super grindy and taking forever to get what you want. Another problem is, like, for a game like this, like, apparently the game has been down for like almost 2 days straight at one point because of what do they called it, a maintenance period that they were working on the game, which that's something you probably should have had dealt with, or I don't know. They didn't exactly say what the maintenance was that they were doing. I don't know if they saw.
So maintenance for any live system, I mean, it's going to happen, and sometimes it can be very inconvenient. So I don't fault them for needing to take maintenance. I mean, if there was an issue with the game that needed to be resolved, sometimes it just takes the time that it takes. I think the bigger issue here is that, I mean, a fair amount of this game, I'm not sure the exact percentage because I haven't played it, but a large section of the feasible gameplay in this game is single player stuff. You don't have to play online.
Yeah, the DRM stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. So because this was down for so long, that probably wouldn't have been nearly as big of a deal if you could still, turn on your game and play the single player stuff. Like, what happened to the good old days back in 360 era, where the online component, the multiplayer stuff, that was the only thing that required that digital online connection. If you just wanted to play campaign or something, you didn't have to have an online connection. You could unplug every cord from your box and still be able to go. So I think that's a more concerning thing. It's just because this online DRM is being forced on games that maybe shouldn't have it incorporated at that level. And I think I know why they're doing that. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm talking too much.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's gonna sound like the typical snooty Xbox guy, but it's like where are the PlayStation people at now? Remember back in the day when PlayStation 4 guys were ragging on Xbox people for, oh, this is how you share your games, or our games don't have to always be DRM, and it's like, well,
here's the thing. This is not a PlayStation versus Xbox issue. There are Xbox games that do this.
I just mean it was gonna happen. Like I'm just kind of making.
Well, no, that's. I mean, I get where you're going with this, and I do think Sony might be playing a role in this that maybe people aren't considering yet. But I'll come back to that. I think my bigger issue is you have to understand why they're doing this in the first place. There's two main reasons they would want to have a game with always online. The first one is try to prevent piracy. If a game's got check in all the time, it's harder to pirate. But I feel like that's a harder sell for a console-based game. Like, how many people are burning and pirating games for their PS5? I'm going to imagine that's a pretty small percentage, and probably always will be, right? There are maybe people who are going to, hack their PS5 that can barely find and potentially brick it just to, play a burnt copy of Gran Turismo 7.
You're playing devil's advocate, though. I mean, for all we know, they could have just made it always online just so they can force microtransactions upon people.
Well, that's where I'm going with this. So I'm going to say those are the two reasons that they would always advocate. There's prevent piracy, which, I mean, we've talked a little bit about that kind of stuff already, and we stand in different places, but especially for this particular game on this particular platform, I don't think should be their primary concern for DRM. The second one, which leads into what you were saying, there's the probably front-facing excuse of, well, we're doing this to prevent, hacking, because, if you can, modify your code and whatnot, it's going to affect the gameplay experience for other people.
But those are the good PR. Those are the good PR reasons.
Exactly. What they're really concerned about as far as hackers is that hackers are going to go in there and affect the in-game economy by, downloading, or not downloading, but unlocking all the cars that they want, so you're not then spending money towards this in-game store. I don't know if this game has like car sharing or car selling between players, but if so, that would throw their whole microtransaction system out of whack.
I believe that is not from what I've read, you cannot sell cars. I read that somewhere on this article. I'll try and find it, but go ahead.
No, that's just kind of what I was getting at. So I don't know. I think that's the issue with this online DRM. It's like with anything. There is a core in using DRM that I think is, a valid rationale. Like if piracy really is your primary concern, or hackers are, making it worse for the community, sure, then something like that may be warranted. But that doesn't seem like there's enough justification for that for this game. And the fact that it's affecting a game that should, I think, probably be, more available offline for at least the single player component, it's kind of just a shame that they're taking this route with it.
It's apparently not new. Apparently since GT5, I think they've been doing like maybe they were. I didn't. Again, I'm not remembering, but I think the people were just comparing. They were bringing up GT5, comparing the pricing, which the pricing, of course, back then was more reasonable. And I think they were the article I read before was just comparing like, hey, this thing's like $40 and this one's like $5, for certain cars.
Right.
So sorry, I cut you off.
I'm sure it's because this game probably has a higher profile than that did. I mean, it's exclusive to the PS5. It's the brand new kind of hyped up or highly highly expected GT release. They haven't had one in a while, so they're probably using this opportunity to really kind of capitalize on potential microtransaction sales.
And I didn't think about it, but maybe Forza gets kind of treat the better treatment slightly is because it's also available on Game Pass. Like a game like this, people are going out and they're spending, top tier $60 to $70 on, and it's like, okay, and now we have to deal with the grindiness. Now we have to deal with, this, and then other Xbox people are just like, oh well, I spend $15 a month and this game's here. Like I wonder if maybe Forza or GT7's getting a little extra heat on it because of the high buy-in price.
I mean, it could be. I think just in general, they've kind of shot themselves in the foot here because Forza really came out of the gate with just a lot of stuff going for it, right? It had the Game Pass, ease of access kind of stuff. It was a solid game by all accounts, and I did play that one. I enjoyed what I played out of it. Better economy, just all in all, it doesn't, like, if you do a one-to-one comparison of where that game's at versus this game, it's just not a really favorable position to be in. I think what I'm kind of curious about, because Sony now is making this big push towards live service games. That's the whole reason they bought Bungie a few weeks ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and this is clearly probably one of their games in that initiative. So it's got to make you think, so who's pulling the strings on a lot of these money-making decisions? It would seem, I would think, that's coming from Sony, higher-ups more than just, what's the developer? Is it Polyphony? That's
yeah.
it. I mean, it could be that, but I'll tell you, I found is probably a hard way to say this, or the wrong way to say this. A lot of times when you hear these crazy kind of anti-consumer decisions being made, it's very rarely from the studio, the developers. Like, usually their goal is to make a good game. A few developers, I think, want their game to be tarnished with, poor microtransactions or weird DRM policies. So it's got to come from higher ups, which means it's got to come from the publisher. At least that's my take on this. So if this is a look into the future of Sony's, live service model, I'm not too much of a fan, to be honest.
Can I show you
and
one
I'm not
thing?
Sony or... Yeah.
Oh,
I
just
guess,
something that something that kind of builds upon what you were just talking about. The reasoning behind buying Bungie, because you're wanting to build up your live game profile. Just this, I think it was just a few days ago. I'll switch over. Sony bought Haven Studios, which a lot of people are like, "Yay, Sony! Yeah, Sony." And it's like, okay, they bought Haven Studios, which is the, I think the lady's name, or I have it right here, Jade Raymond, who she was previously with. She helped create the Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs franchises, which okay. But from what I understand, like my kind of confusion about this whole Jade Raymond Haven Studios thing is because people have been like touting this as being a great buy, and it's like they haven't made anything yet. From what I understand, though, we do know what the game is, and they've already announced that whatever Haven Studios is working on is some sort of live service video game. So I just wanted to throw that in because you're talking about Bungie, them wanting to add to their live service repertoire, and it's like, well, here's another, here's more evidence of them doing just that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I'm going to be kind of prophetic for a moment. So, I don't know, this kind of feels like, classic Sony. Like, when Sony's kind of like on top of a generation, like they're coming out of, PS4 generation being, besides Switch, like, top dog.
You're saying they're feeling the heat that Xbox was feeling in the Xbox One days, or starting to feel.
No. So hark back to when PlayStation came off the PS2, announcing the PS3. They made some pretty big missteps because they were so confident in the PS2. Like, from what I understand, at least at the time, they had somewhat of a bit of a arrogant kind of nature to them, especially around those years. And to be fair, I mean, PS2 was the dominant system, so it's not like none of it was founded. But I think because of that, they kind of used that to kind of just justify going in certain directions that really either were not consumer friendly, or they didn't kind of read the trends well for where the community was going, because they came out the gate with what, $600 price tag on their console, and this weird architecture for the PS3 that actually made it harder to develop for all of this other stuff. And it almost
wasn't the architecture was because of they were trying to fight piracy. There was something about.
No, it was what was the name of the architecture? It was where they could basically all build, connect together, and actually be more powerful if you had more of that chipset in the in your infrastructure. I can't remember what it was called. Regardless, I mean, that's not my point here. Yeah. My point is, it's kind of like they're coming off, the PS4 doing so great. They're super, super confident, and they're like, well, you know what? I'm just going to ride this trend out, and they're not really reading the room a little bit. Like, I'm not saying that live service games don't make a lot of money, because I think Destiny has proven that they do. But I'll tell you, a lot of games that come out lately that have been live service and have not been received very favorably by community. Look at, what is it, Babylon's Fall that just came out. You look at Avengers. You look at all these live service games, Anthem. Like, how many other true live service games have come out and been super successful like Destiny did? Destiny's kind of like the one that stands above all of them as kind of the one that came out, did it best, and is still kind of continuing to do well.
Halo's
so many others
some problems.
Yeah, and Halo is, man, I'm still hesitant to call that a live service game. I know they're trying to make that model around it. I mean, nowadays every game is kind of a live service model to a certain extent. But I guess my point being here is I feel like they're going super heavy into this live service model. And I'm wondering if that's going to bite them in the butt at some point. Like, you can kind of see, I don't know, a shift in the winds a little bit as far as where gamers want to be. And they kind of did that last generation too. Like, they really dug into the single player content. I'm worried that Sony's going to dig really deep into making almost all their games live service in some way, shape, or form. And that might bite them in the butt if maybe gamers don't want that anymore, clearly they're showing that's not always the case.
Again, hearkening back to what I was mentioning before, but do you think it's a benefit that, again, Microsoft had begun, experimenting and trying stuff like this back with the Xbox One? Do you think it's a benefit that, they got ahead of the game and kind of maybe have a better grasp on, on things like that?
What do you mean ahead of the game? Because are we talking about live service game? Because I wouldn't say Microsoft. Well, Microsoft isn't really ahead with live service games.
Or maybe they can use Game Pass to cushion the blow for, maybe less than stellar titles or stuff that's heavily DRM.
So Microsoft and Sony seem like they're taking very different approaches. I mean, Microsoft has definitely gone with the Game Pass, Netflix-like model, and I think they're going to just lean more and more into that with the cloud-based stuff and really focus on the subscription as kind of their main source of revenue, ultimately. Sony, I'm sure, is going to try to get some of that, but I think they're going to lean more into recurring income, recurring revenue from these live service games. And I think the issue with that is that means that. So
you think Sony's going to go into the deep end, or is going towards the deep end on this?
I don't know. I am not a game analyst, so I can't say that. And I mean, I'm sure they have far more data to back up maybe the direction that they're going. But the catch with a live service game, your success is only going to be as well as the game is regarded. Like Destiny, for all its flaws, was a good game. I mean, you could go back and forth and argue about how good, when it was better, et cetera, but at its core, it was a fun game. It clearly did something right, and it's showing that it's, standing the test of time.
It has a clean foundation. It has a really good, we always talked about that loop, that it has a great loop that brings people back and people, want to keep coming back.
It has great artwork. I mean, really, so much of what Bungie does with Destiny is world class. I mean, you can complain about stuff, balancing and details, but the game is solid. They're about to hit their 10-year mark here pretty soon, which I think is pretty impressive.
That's probably a good buy. Probably a great buy for PS4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that that was a bad thing to do. I'm sure Bungie's insight is going to help with live service, but at the same time, it's only going to work as well as that particular game, that particular live service model that or game that they're trying to promote actually resonates with the audience. Like Avengers, it missed the mark so far. Same thing with Babylon's Fall. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. My point being is
I get
like
what you're saying.
it still comes down to they have to put out solid games, and if they falter in that, that model's not going to serve them very well. Like the first few failures they have could put them in a rough spot.
I think
Sony's not as or I should say Sony doesn't have nearly as much disposable cash as like Microsoft does to make a few mistakes.
I do think Sony, fans of Sony platforms should be a little bit worried that they're seeing something like this happen with a first party Sony game, because you better
It's
hope
going to go to all of them.
it's going to go to a lot of. Now granted, I refuse to believe that Sony would be willing to do this with like Ratchet and Clank or God of War, but if you see,
I'm not so sure.
if you see them making profit off of something like GT7 and the microtransactions, which I guarantee you they'll catch the whales and they will bring in money, you'd be worried.
Let me frame this a little bit. Yeah, I know we're spending a lot of time on this topic, but this is one I'm actually kind of interested in. So, not that I'm not interested in other ones, Jazz, but
I this is why it's the first one.
So if we're taking a game that we wouldn't think normally is not microtransaction, I'm sorry, live service based, like God of War, okay, very single player focused. But if you go back a little ways and look for a game that's kind of, I don't want to say similar, but maybe has some similar bones in some ways. You look at some maybe in like an Assassin's Creed that kind of has that kind of action gameplay. I mean, granted, it's open world stuff, but then again, God of War is moving that open world route anyway. The reason I'm bringing this up is Assassin's Creed has more and more turned into a live service game.
Oh yeah, it totally is.
And they're about to release I don't know what to call it, Assassin's Creed Infinite or Infinity or whatever they're calling it, like a true live service Assassin's Creed.
I guess who Sony just hired.
Exactly. They just hired the person who basically came, I don't know if she came up with it, but was a head lead on developing Assassin's Creed. And I'm sure she had a hand to play in some of those directions the game took.
I'll take credit for bringing that up. Thank you.
No, I was going that direction.
Oh no, you knew about the Jade Raymond? I didn't even know if you knew about the Jade Raymond stuff. Haven or whatever.
But that's the point. Like, you can see kind of where these building blocks are going, right? So they're bringing in this chick who is chick. I'm sorry, that's disrespectful. This developer.
I can't wait to make the thumbnail for this highlight video. It's gonna be so. It's gonna be so like. Sony's going down the toilet.
I don't think that. So
I'm joking. It'll be joking, but yeah.
And it'd be a terrible call to be like, yeah, Sony's going to do terrible because they're Sony and the PlayStation. There's always going to be a market for PlayStation games. But my point is just you can see how there is a future out there where you do have a live service God of War game, and that makes me nervous. And I like God of War. I like what it is right now. So I don't know if I would be keen on that. And not that everything about a live service game is all terrible, but usually live service games are there to pull in that recurring revenue. And that should just be at least a cause for concern that now Sony's definitely leading this way. Time is only going to tell, but I'm a little nervous.
Did they I didn't play Last of Us 2, but like I heard that Last of Us 2 had like a multiplayer mode? Like did the first one have a multiplayer mode too?
Oh man, I can't remember. I know one of them did. I didn't play either of them.
I was tempted to say oh, you better be careful if they start adding microtransactions in The Last of Us, and I was just thinking, I'm like, they may have already done that. I mean,
I think the games would probably always have, like their single player portion of it. But you're right, they might have like a multiplayer.
I know Uncharted does. Game. I know all the Uncharted games have like a multiplayer, or at least 1 and 2 did.
Yeah, there's a world out there where you take just about any one of these games and turn them live service. Like, look at Halo. If I would have went back, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have guessed Halo would be this live service game, but it very much is going that direction now. So, and I guess I'm coming down on Sony, like, oh, Sony's the ones going live service, but everybody's wanting to get a piece of that pie, Xbox included. I think Xbox is safer, though, because if they do have a live service game that ends up failing for whatever reason, they fall back on their Game Pass model. Like, they've got, other things that are going to continually pull in revenue with their subscription.
Listen, guys, I know all of this seems very, going deep down the rabbit hole, or maybe, but it's like it's very plain to kind of see. I mean, it's a capitalistic mega company that, like, they're gonna experiment, they're gonna look for ways to build on money, and I just think, you can kind of see the foundations of companies being added and all these different live service models being attempted. You're probably right. They're probably not far away from experimenting more. It's gonna happen.
So it's not that I am against a live service game. Like, once again, we played Destiny for far too much time. But I will say some of the, negative sides to Destiny that made it frustrating were because it was a live service, and how it was kind of structured and modeled. And granted, it was also a boon to the game because you could play this one game and always get new content for it, which was cool. But I don't know, the way the microtransactions snuck in, the kind of the way the economy shifted towards it and actually affected, the type of modes that you would play in the game. Like, I don't know. It's where the games are at right now.
I'm sure there's a tasteful way to do it, but it's got to be hard for a company like
finding that balance is hard. And I'll tell you,
it's got to be hard. Yeah.
Gran Turismo 7 is any kind of representation on the way that Sony's looking to do live service games. That's not the tasteful way to do it.
No.
So,
No.
Like, if God of War had some kind of weird live service model, and it was like this, where you had to, pay $50 real world dollars to get, the new coloring in Kratos' beard or something. I don't know. I think it would definitely be a frustrating experience for a lot of people.
And
anyways,
I'll kind of end it on kind of a troubling quote, in my opinion. I'll switch over. Or before I do, I'd just like to say, for me, this quote sounds kind of familiar. And it's from, what was his name? Oh, Todd Howard. Do you remember a couple years back when Todd Howard was talking about Fallout 7? What was it, Fallout 76 or something?
Mm-hmm.
And
how could we all forget?
And he had the, Todd Howard, how could you? We believed in you. He had that wonderful quote where he said something about it's not how a game starts, it's how it ends, or something, something about that. And that was like, no, how a game starts is important, and it's basically just saying, they're looking down the line at how much money they could be making. Like, that's what's important. But yeah, I'll switch over. There is a quote here from who is this? Series boss, sorry, terrible cough time. Kazunori Yamauchi, who claimed the situation would eventually be resolved with further content due to be released at an unspecified point in the future. So yeah, his fantastic quote, which honestly I will say before reading, it doesn't necessarily sound like it's something he likes. His quote, I'll go on. It says, in GT7, I would like to have users enjoy lots of cars and races even without microtransactions, he claimed. At the same time, the pricing of cars is an important element that conveys their value, rarity, so I do think it's important for it to be linked with real-world prices.
There's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Basically, he's saying, we want to keep making all the money, and this is our rationale for doing it, so too bad.
And he says, we will let you know the update for plans for additional content, additional race events, and additional features that will constructively resolve this. It pains me that I can't explain the details why regarding this at the moment, but we plan on continuing to revise GT7 so that many players as possible can enjoy the game. We would really appreciate it if everyone could watch over the growth of Gran Turismo 7 from a somewhat longer term point of view.
What would really help people enjoy the game is if they could play it when your servers go down. That would help a lot.
Yeah, like I said, that last kind of tidbit sounded very much like, it reminded me of a certain guy that works at Bethesda.
Yeah, not disappointed. I'll tell you, I don't want to spend a lot more time on this, but
I'm ready.
Very concerned about, all these games just basically being these online things now. Like, when, I don't know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then nobody wants to play GT7 anymore, servers go offline, then you've got a coaster. I mean, you don't have a game anymore. And so many games will go that route. Like, I look over my Xbox One collection, I'm like, how many of these games can I play in 15, 20 years?
Can we still play a game like something random, but I have a copy of Destiny for 360. Isn't that a game that you can't play?
Yep. And I mean, true, that's like a real live service game, but even games that aren't really like live servicey, like there's a lot of single components. Or, okay, here's a good one. So even think about like Halo Infinite, which you could play the whole game, without multiplayer. The problem is like a lot of that game is all given to you in patches, right? So like if you put in that original game in your Xbox and play it, you are not playing the game that 343 wanted you to play. And 30 years from now, somebody wants to go back and replay Halo Infinite, and they don't have an internet connection. They're playing just this crappy version of the game that's broken in certain ways and doesn't have certain content. Just like, the other good example, do you know the Pokemon remakes, the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl? So like they were missing like opening cutscenes, and like they had placeholder music in the game day one. Yeah, like they were literally missing stuff, and they told people.
I think like, game.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if it was I think it was the intro cinematic or something. Just wasn't in the game. You had to download it via the day one patch. But what if you don't have internet? Or what if once again, in 20, 30 years, you want to go replay Brilliant Diamond or whatever, and you don't have the internet? You're now missing part of the game physically on that disc, and that's just. I don't know. It's the route we're going, but it makes it sad. It breaks my collector's heart for one, because I know half those games on that shelf. It's like why even have them there? I can't play them when I'm older. They're just going to be relics or little pieces of plastic I can look at. But oh well, I'll get off my old man yelling at the cloud soapbox.
No, you're good. We'll end it on just a couple things I just thought was interesting. Typing in Gran Turismo 7 into the Google. Earlier, one of the first questions I saw, or first two I should say, is Gran Turismo 7 back up, and is Gran Turismo 7 offline? I don't know.
Well, it was only down for like 30 hours, so it's been up, I think, for the past day or so.
I just thought it was funny. That was the first thing that popped up. That's like not a great thing to see.
It's a crappy situation.
And then we'll switch over to the Metascore, and I
feel bad for the devs too, because they obviously worked really hard to make a solid racing game. From everything I've read, this is like one of those return to form kind of games. Harks back to like the GT3 days. Well, I spent a lot of time playing GT3 back on my PS2. So the fact that such a good game is being marred because of these superfluous business decisions is just a shame. And that's why I said what if this was the new God of War, right? You had these devs pour their heart and soul into this awesome game, and the game is great, but then all these business decisions kind of ruin the experience, and that's just, I don't know, scary thought.
Look at you, using the word superfluous. I couldn't even say it. But once again, 1.5 on the user score. That's a drastic difference from the Metascore at 87, and apparently this is the lowest Sony first-party game ever scored in terms of the user. Something else that is kind of a problem that kind of has some people questioning what kind of path that a certain game company is going down, but we will kind of move into our next topic, which is the problems that are going on over with The Initiative and their game Perfect Dark over at Xbox. Let me switch over. But if you don't know, The Initiative is I'm trying to remember exactly how it was phrased when they created it. They called it the first AAA studio,
quadruple A.
Oh, quadruple A studio. I misquoted that in my notes. But apparently the reason they called it that is apparently the company or the studio was put together by all of these major, very talented developers from all these different companies, and it doesn't sound like things are going very good over there. I'm trying to remember, was this the first quadruple A, or was that a name that they just kind of made for themselves?
It was just a little marketing kind of. I think it was more of a joke. I hope it was a joke.
Marketing lingo.
I think they were just trying to get some buzz around the new studio and trying to draw attention to all the the high-profile devs that were involved with it. Because here's the thing: what does AAA, quadruple A really even mean? It's just kind of saying, the standard quality of game, and kind of, the scope of, its publishing reach. I think it's all it's really referring to.
Doesn't mean nothing. Look at it. I think Tunic was made by one person.
Yeah, whether it's AAA, no A, quadruple Z, that does not have any indication on the, quality of a game. Look at Anthem. Anthem was made by a AAA, pedigreed game developer. And that game, not so hot. Not to hark on a one game, but no, it was just marketing lingo, the whole quadruple A nonsense.
But we'll be done with that. but pretty much as per VideoGamesChronicle.com is where I got both of these articles from. They were both done by the same person, and Andy Robinson. But basically, just within these articles, it kind of just entails all of the kind of problems that have been going on for approximately 12 plus months over at The Initiative. essentially, there's been some major departures, and I mean, some major ones would be the game director, Dan Newberger. He left the initiative after 4 years on the job. He was previously the game director over at Crystal Dynamics and on Tomb Raider. There was a second major departure from the initiative, a Drew Murray, who was the design director, who left to rejoin his former employer at Insomniac Games. Apparently, it's been such a poop show over there that they brought on Crystal Dynamics to essentially help them with development. And from what it sounds like, Crystal Dynamics is almost like leading on development of not their game, which kind of, to me, that kind of sounds like a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before I keep going, I mean, yeah, man, this sounds like it could... I don't know what that spells for this game. Like, are we gonna ever see this game, or is there, like, I don't know.
I don't know. In some ways, I think this is going to really kind of depend on Microsoft's tolerance to keep supporting it. Like, they're kind of in a weird spot because this is a big profile game for Microsoft.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a lot of nostalgia to it. They've hyped it up like crazy. If this game doesn't go well, that's not going to speak well to pretty much their whole agenda, right? Which has been to buy all these other studios, let them work on these projects, and make these awesome, great games.
If you have problems with Perfect Dark and Halo, or, you know, it's like...
Halo issues, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, I think Halo was at least a good game at least a core level.
Agreed. Maybe that was a bad game to throw in there.
I mean, it had issues, but here's every game is going to have issues at this point. I think it's just kind of becoming par for the course.
It's a live service model.
Yeah, but if Perfect Dark came out and it was, you know, an Avengers or something like that, just some game that it was just terrible for just about every kind of, you know, measuring stick, that's going to hurt the Microsoft's reputation. And they've been working really hard to build up their reputation over the past few years. So part of me is thinking that, you know, Microsoft is probably, as much as they don't want to, they've got the funds to keep supporting this, probably longer term, to give it the development time it needs. I hope that's what they do, and they can turn it around. But at the same time, you got to think they've sunk a lot of money into this. Are they at a point where, you know, some higher ups like saying, you know, we need a return on this investment, you need to hurry up and finish this game regardless if it's, you know, what you intended it to be. I don't know which route they're going to go. I'm hoping they're going to go with that first option, and based upon what some of the things that Microsoft has said in interviews, especially with what was the developer they shut down, Lionhead.
The Fable people, which apparently Fable is actually having almost just as much trouble. Apparently maybe not quite as bad as this one, but apparently the Fable development is kind of rough as well.
Yeah.
Although maybe rough, maybe any AAA games development is probably there's
a lot that goes into.
There's a lot of people involved, so.
Yeah, rarely I think it's as smooth. But I think my point being is they've been public in interviews saying they regret, I think, you know, shutting down Lionhead. Like, they should have given it more time, knowing what they know now. So that makes me hope that they would take an approach like this with the initiative, and hopefully Crystal Dynamics can come in, Microsoft can support them in whatever way they need, and they can, you know, make this happen. But it's concerning. I think what's most concerning is, at least from what I read, the rationale for why so many people left. There was just this big disconnect between, like, leadership and the development team on the direction the studio should go, like, creatively and, like, scope-wise. What was it, like, half of the team wanted to keep it, like, super small and super kind of, you know, what's a good way to say this? Just really small development size for their team, and the other wanted to go ahead and branch out and, like, bring in more and more people.
Oh, that's nice. You want to keep it a small development team? We're going to bring in Crystal Dynamics, too.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when that happened exactly.
Well, apparently Crystal Dynamics was brought on at about my note says, timing of the departures coincides with September 2021, the Crystal Dynamics announcement.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to even have an optimistic take on this. I pretty much just shut down any expectations I had for the game. If it comes out and it's in good shape, that's going to be a great surprise. But it would definitely be one of those kind of comeback stories, if so, because it's got a lot of things kind of stacked against it moving forward.
Yeah. Another note I had is that apparently the initiative claimed that Perfect Dark gameplay would be shown at Microsoft's E3 this year in June. Do you think? I mean, that was a question I have. Is Would you be shocked if you didn't see anything from Perfect Dark at Microsoft's E3? Are we going to have an E3? That's another question.
Yeah. Oh man. So here's my thing. Whether they had something to show or not, I don't think I'd want to see it right now. I'm gonna beat this horse a little more. Think about the Anthem E3 reveal. They showed something, and it looked pretty cool for what it was. But from everything we now know, that was not the game, or at least not what they thought the game was going to be. Nobody even knew what it was going to be until that trailer, that gameplay dropped. I feel like that would be the same issue we're in right now. Whatever they show of Perfect Dark, I don't see how that could be a representation of this final game right now. Based upon the issues internally with the development studio, all the new creative leads that have come and gone, like how could this game be whatever they show now in a year from now, 2 years from now? So I don't know. I don't think they should show anything. I think people would probably read into that the same way I'm reading into it, and just be like, with all the controversy, how confident they are that this little gameplay demo isn't so tweaked or coerced to look a certain way and is completely not reflective of the final product. So I don't want to see it yet. Don't get me wrong, I'm sad. I'd like to see something, but not in this state. I
totally agree. I don't think this, from the troubles it sounds like they're having, to me this is not the game I think you should be leaving breadcrumbs on. You should not be leaving a trail. I think this is something maybe you go Zero Dark 30. Maybe you just kind of like shelf it. Not shelf it, but like just don't mention it. It's just something you let kind of simmer and boil in the background.
Metroid Prime 4. Like, people I know are frustrated about that. Everybody wants to hear about their favorite game when it's being developed or it's going to release. But I would much rather let the developer, the publisher, keep their dirty laundry behind closed doors, because I don't need to know all that right now. Let them develop their game.
You don't want it to turn into a Metroid Dread, but yeah, Metroid 4, preferably.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is let them work on it, release it when it's ready. Like, I will say that, even though it sucks to be waiting on some of these high-profile games, if you look at like the Nintendo model, they don't talk about their game until they're usually ready to talk about their game. And when it comes out, how many, misses have Nintendo had really in the past decade, 2 decades even? I don't know. Like, when they put out a game, it's quality in most regards. So I would rather not hear about Perfect Dark for a couple of years, however long. Let them figure it out, get their creative decisions back on track. Once again, hopefully Microsoft will support that. And then when it comes out, we have a good game. And that'll be a great surprise. But I don't know. I don't want them... It's not that I have a huge, vested interest in Perfect Dark. I definitely enjoyed it back in the N64 days. I personally preferred it more than GoldenEye. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't want them to rush it.
Yeah. But you kind of answered my question. One of my questions was, do you have any fondness for Joanna Dark or the Perfect Dark license as a whole? Seeing as how you just kind of said your part, I would just say for me, I don't necessarily have any really attachment to Perfect Dark. Kind of similar to you, I feel like when this game was happening, I was much more into GoldenEye. I was kind of young when those games came out, but yeah, I would say GoldenEye is something I had more fondness for, rather than Perfect Dark. I feel like I kind of played that crappy launch Perfect Dark reboot.
For the 360.
For the 360.
Zero?
Yeah. Like I felt like that game was pretty bad as well.
Yeah, it's a weird title. People definitely have nostalgia for it, but how much, I think, is kind of the thing. Like, beyond that N64 Perfect Dark, 361 didn't have a lot of fanfare. And to my knowledge, they haven't done any other installments of the game. Am I correct?
No, it's been Perfect Dark, Zero, and oh my gosh, what a weird cough. You got that recorded. But yeah, I feel like those are the only Perfect Dark anything.
Yeah, so I don't think nostalgia is going to be enough to save this game if it isn't solid. Like, for this game to do well, I don't think it's going to be able to rest on the name, because I personally don't think there's enough nostalgia for it. But I could be wrong. I'm not the biggest Perfect Dark fan. There's probably a couple people out there listening to this, be like, I love Joanna. But I don't know. They need to make this game release in a good form. The game needs to be fun. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at that. I really don't know what to even think about this game anymore.
I guess just kind of...
I'm just so fatigued about hearing all this, once again, all this dirty laundry. And it's interesting, of course, but at a certain point, I'm just like, man, I just want to play a game and not have to worry about all this nonsense. Will it be, brought down by terrible, administrative overlords that just want to make money? Like,
Hey,
I don't know.
Nintendo runs their company with an iron fist. They don't let any news come out about any problems. You never hear anything about troubled development, even though I'm sure there's troubled development all over the place. But
Yeah,
I guess just
that wouldn't be as spicy though.
yeah, I guess one more little thing I'll add on before we move on is I'm kind of worried that like Microsoft's kind of approach, kind of moving into it about how much they're showing for some of these titles, these AAA, quadruple A, how much they're showing, when they're showing it,
Which titles are you talking about?
there's just so much stuff. Like they've shown so many trailers, and it's like, can you?
Of what though? What are you talking about?
I mean, they showed. Here's. I mean, but this is more Bethesda, but like, here's Elder Scrolls, or here's the Fable trailer. It's like, like I'd like to see like so stuff like that they've shown. Like it's starting to get kind of like, can we see a little bit more, or can you? I know in terms of like marketing, in terms of like you have to show things. I don't know. Maybe I'd like to start like seeing more on a title before it's announced. Like, I mean, I guess, or maybe there is no other way of or talking about a game other than showing a teaser.
It's hard because I mean they want to let people know that a game is in development because that at least plants that hype seed just a little bit. But then it's that tricky thing of if you show gameplay too early and then something goes wrong or it's not reflective of the final game, then you get bombasted because that's not what you showed in the trailer, or this game's even worse than what they showed in the trailer, like any number of different things. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've been burned by hype in the past and expectations. I like the models where I don't even know a game's coming out, and then there's like, hey, this game's coming out in 6 months. Here's the trailer, the gameplay. Go buy it then. And I never knew the game was coming out.
I run a YouTube channel and a podcast for you, and you don't want content. You don't want topics. We need videos. We need trailers. Hush up.
I know it's kind of the antithesis of what we're doing. Most people talk about this kind of stuff. Would love to hear about all the spicy news that's happening behind the scenes and all the dirty laundry, but and it's not that I don't like talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just in a particular, just a drained mode right now, and I'm tired of being overly cynical.
What do you want
about
me to
it.
start talking about the weather for topic one? And
Maybe our weather's been terrible, but I don't know. Maybe it's too because I have not had a lot of time to play games, so it's almost more frustrating to hear about all just the negative aspects to it when I just want to sit down and I want to play Horizon, man. And be able to even think about playing a game. So
No.
But that's my own personal issue. I'm sorry.
I feel you. All right, so yeah, that's kind of our thoughts on that. Once again, kind of troubling. I mean, I'm not excited. I have no attachment to Perfect Dark. I was just more. I guess it's just me. I was more excited for this game when it got announced simply because I'm an Xbox. Tend to lean more Xbox, so it was just like, oh look, another Xbox title.
I think. How would you have felt though? Let's say so they announced that they were doing this game. Was it 2 years ago now? 3 years? I don't know. I feel like it's been
something
forever.
like that.
So what if all this stuff was happening? Like
It wasn't even announced. I think it was announced at the Game Awards too.
Yeah, wherever they did it. So, however long ago it was, let's say they didn't do that. They didn't announce the game at all. And, all this stuff could have still been happening. The initiative still blew up. Crystal Dynamics came in, blah, 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 blah. But we knew nothing about the game. And then all of a sudden, after all that stuff finally gets worked out, maybe it's a year or two from now, the game, they just drop an announcement trailer saying, hey, we have a new Perfect Dark game. Bet you didn't see that coming. It's going to hit shelves in 6 months. Get ready. I think that would have been so much cooler because then all this nonsense that we're worried about now, will the game be good? Is this going to ruin the game? And shifting everybody's expectations all over the place.
I agree.
All that's thrown out the window. Then a game just would have dropped. It would have been what it is. I mean, maybe it would have been good, maybe it would have been bad, but you could have judged it off the game. Now, no matter what this game ends up being, you're going to carry with it the baggage of all this developer nonsense. And honestly, you'll be looking at it probably more critically than you would have. You'll be like, oh, that's bad because, the initiative, fell apart halfway through. And even if that had nothing to do with a particular bad, feature of the game.
Like, you phrased it much better than what I that's what I was kind of getting at is that, like, yeah, it's nice to see a trailer or teaser, but, like, Microsoft showing something that they know is, like, 3 to 4 to 5 years off. It's like, Come on, show me something that is maybe a year off, year and a half off.
I think it was tricky for Microsoft, particularly though. Like if this was another developer, another studio, it'd be one thing. But Microsoft, at the time that they were announcing Perfect Dark, that's when they were going on that spending spree, right? They were buying all these little devs.
They got into the IP battle with Sony, kind of stuff.
Well, here's the thing, like where Sony was at the point where they were churning out and throwing out their IPs done and created, they had their games. Microsoft didn't have that, so all they could do was basically say, hey, we have this IP, give it 3 years. So they drop a Perfect Dark announcement, logo or trailer.
It might not have been that. It might also been that like the last year or two, this has been Xbox's. It could have been that they were just forced to do stuff like this is because the push for Game Pass. They got to give people, they've been, and granted, they've done a good job of that, but I'm just mean like maybe they had to kind of start giving people reasons to sign up, showing people. You got to kind of, I guess, leave nuggets for people to like go, oh, so I want to sign up because Perfect Dark's coming, even though I know nothing about it,
Yeah, they have to show some kind of fruit from all this investment, right? They know they're Microsoft's been playing the long game now for a while, and they're hoping, and I think everybody else is, that we're getting to that point now where we're going to start seeing the return on their investment. And I think that's what they were hoping with Perfect Dark. They probably needed to drop this announcement trailer however long ago, because really, what has Microsoft put out in the past 3 years besides Halo that has been like a first party big exclusive? I can't think of much.
It's been. I know there was another Forza that was really popular a couple years back.
Like if you ignore the most recent Forza Horizon and Halo, they haven't had much. I know one of the Gears came out
Gears 5
super long ago. But here's the thing, they just haven't had much. I mean, yes, they've been banking on Game Pass and whatnot, but I think that would be the rationale for why, okay, they needed to drop this Perfect Dark thing however long ago. But I would hope that, moving forward now, they're waiting. And also, I think they probably are, because they bought, I don't even remember how many studios back in the day, and we haven't heard nothing about the games they're making. So I think they are very much, hopefully, we're just going to wait, let these companies do their thing and simmer, and when their game is pretty much ready to go, then we're going to drop it. I think Perfect Dark just had the name to go with it, and they figured they could use that for good marketing. But
all right, well, yeah, that's kind of our thoughts on that. We're going to move right on to our next topic. What are we at? We're at an hour 15. So yeah, our final topic will be fairly short. So let's spend maybe 10 to 15 talking about this one. Once again, this is a topic from a previous week, so maybe there's a little bit less excitement on this one.
Our final topic. It's our second to last topic.
Well, I meant our final topic after this one. This is our second to last, yeah.
You're confusing me, Chad.
Oh, no, sorry.
Let's tired brain.
Switch over. So, another kind of thing that happened last week is reported by IGN's Kat Bailey. Apparently, my name of this was EA Play Not Live.
Yuck.
Yeah, apparently EA Play's live event will not be happening this year. The decision to cancel the showcase is yet another blow to uncertain summer events. What did I say? I wanted to read EA's statement, which is right here. An EA representative shared the following statement with IGN. We love EA Play Live as it's our way of connecting with our players and sharing what's new with all of you. However, this year things aren't lining up to show you everything on one date. Oh my gosh, I read that terribly. we have exciting things happening at our world-class studios, and this year we'll reveal much more about these projects when the time is right for each of them. We look forward to spending time with you throughout the year, and essentially this is the first time since 2016 EA will not be hosting an E3 tied showcase. So yeah, just kind of opening thoughts on that. Phoenix, what do you think? Are you bummed?
I don't care. I don't know. I never watch the EA plays anyway.
No, they're always one of the lesser reviewed ones, lesser cared about ones.
EA is a weird one because there's so many games under their umbrella. Like I ignore all the sports games, so that doesn't ever interest me. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, they'll drop something interesting, like Star Wars Fallen Order, or was it Rogue Squadron? No, what a Rogue Squadron? What do they call it?
Fallen Order.
Huh?
Fallen Order.
No. Oh, it's just Star Wars Squadrons. That's what it
Squadrons.
was.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I'm starting to zone out.
no,
You're
it's
good.
all good. So I don't know. I mean, those are interesting enough, but I don't know. It's not like I'm looking forward to anything from EA. I always forget too what's under their umbrella. Like I mix up sometimes EA games versus Activision games. But regardless, I mean, I'm sure they have stuff they're working on. But once again, if they're not ready to show it, I don't need to see it.
It might
I'd
be a
rather wait.
positive for them, maybe,
Yeah, like I would rather wait till and they probably had to cancel this for whatever reason. Their games just need more time in the oven. Maybe COVID still affects other teams. I don't know, and I honestly don't
And
care.
this
as I
doesn't
said.
necessarily mean an event won't happen. Maybe they're just like, we just don't want to do it around E3 time. Maybe
I think
around
that's
October,
the bigger takeaway from this.
something, they'll do something.
Yeah, more and more companies just like I don't need to do this during the big summery shebang. Maybe they're only pushing it back for like a month. I mean, it may not be like, oh, we're some dire thing. We're not going to have any games this year. It's just like, well, June and July, that's a little too soon for us. Let's shoot for August or September. I mean,
Yeah.
not saying that that's going to happen, but there is nothing tying anybody to June anymore. Like
You just put this
we're in a whole different world.
time restraints on your marketing teams. It's just like, maybe people are busy and they don't want to have to put in the money to create some highlight reels or anything.
Right.
But I guess just this is just another blow since January E3 canceled its in-person event. That doesn't necessarily mean the digital is not happening. From what I understand,
They haven't mentioned anything about it.
Microsoft
We
is
are getting real close.
Microsoft is the only one who I think has legitimately said we are still having a digital event around E3. But I believe they're the only ones. I mean, I think Sony is still out. Nintendo still is in their own little world. Yeah. So I guess just one kind of like quick question I had is, do you think it's time to finally put E3 into a coffin and bury it 6 feet underground? Is it time to?
I want you to give your opinion first because I don't want to. I feel like I'm going to come pretty strong on this one, so I'd rather
Okay.
you say what you would think first.
Me personally, I actually still like. I think we talked about it briefly on a previous episode, but I still kind of enjoy the excitement and the kind of pageantry of an event like that. So, to me, I would say no. I don't want E3 to go away. I would still like something to happen. I do feel like it's kind of crappy to force these companies to, I do think it's kind of crappy to put time restraints and stuff like that on marketing teams. Maybe an E3 is the reason why a Microsoft company is doing stuff like showing games 5 years in advance. You know what I mean? I would say no, but I don't know. Maybe
I'm very surprised you took that stance. I thought you were going to be like, yeah, kill it off. Because I
No.
personally don't want to see E3 go away.
I love E3. I've always loved. We're game people. Like it's like I have memories of seeing things.
I get people's like general kind of disdain for what E3 has become. Like it's gotten bloated, it's shifted, its focus away from stuff. But I think you're right. Like the industry is now kind of lacking that moment of excitement, that preparation stage for all the great games coming out within the year. Like
No,
I think
you're a breathtaker.
Yeah, you
Keanu.
miss those like cheesy, super cringy moments. Like yes, I think it's great that now companies feel more free to go ahead and just like post a state of play whenever they want, or have a little live event to talk about whatever else they need to. And I think that is great. They should continue doing that. But I think still having a moment where they all kind of come together and just kind of celebrate gaming a little bit and have some weird, awkward presentations just to make it fun. I mean, I don't know. I feel like when you kind of go to these just pure digital events and they're just kind of all sporadic around, they're all kind of soulless. They feel more markety to me, or if that makes sense. I don't feel like it's engaging in an event. I don't know. I hope E3 comes back. I know it's also a time too, from what I understand, where like developers can come and meet and talk about stuff behind the scenes. A lot of times it's been used to like start up new little cool creative projects that turn into cool games down the line. So I mean, I'm not saying there's no other way for these developers to do that, but it's just kind of a shame not to have that interaction anymore.
I agree.
Do I think E3 needs to change how it's being laid out? Probably, but I'm not sure exactly what that picture is supposed to look like just yet. I'm just gonna be sad if they just, all of a sudden show up in, May or June or something, be like, you know what, we're not even gonna bother anymore. E3's dead. I don't know. I think that's gonna be a disappointing, kind of a sad day for gaming, because what do we have to look forward to now? What's our next big event? Like, we're just waiting for Nintendo to finally talk about Breath of the Wild, because at this point, I don't even know if they're gonna do that anymore.
I don't think E3 needs to necessarily go away, but I agree with you. It probably needs a restructuring. There needs to be... Like, I still really love the idea of there being a single event. Not a single. I like the idea of all these different events throughout the year, but there still is... Again, I said it already, but like the pageantry, like it is really cool to have. And I definitely don't want that event to be the Game Awards, which I feel like that's
what I was going to say.
The Game Awards, I feel like, is starting to become like... Because Xbox showed their new console, Series X, there a couple years ago.
It is just a big advertisement. And not that you didn't have any of that in E3, but that is what the Game Awards is. For one, I hate award shows anyway. I think they're kind of pompous for the most part. Granted, I appreciate it for developers more than I do something like the Oscars, but in general, I don't really care about that kind of thing, and it's just an advertisement.
I don't really like
I'm
Jeff
not
Keighley
necessarily
either. But that's just
I'm neutral on him. Like, I don't really care about any one particular person involved. But when I watch E3, I like to see the new gameplay or new technologies and stuff like that. And you get some of that at the Game Awards, but it's pretty rare. You get a lot of trailers, but
I think the Game Awards just focuses on too much. It's like the E3's fun because for the most part, it's game coverage. It's just games. It's all about the developers. It's all about the announcements.
Yeah, you're hearing from the developers. They're showing off gameplay and, I don't know, cool little features or new technologies, and there's so much happening.
The Game Awards has like commercials, and it's all, it's more of an event. It's more of an event that's tailored towards, families. It feels like, in a way. It's got music, and it's just like,
It's too restrictive. I mean, you're there for a couple of hours. Well, really too many hours.
Not a couple of hours. I've complained about this before on this show. The Game Awards is almost always like 4 hours long. Why?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm kind of getting at. Like, there's so much in gaming, and you can't cram it into a show like that. That's why E3 was a week long. I mean, you just can't get that same experience in an award show like that. And you can't get the same experience just from these all digital little, events that, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo all throw up. It's cool to see about the games. Honestly, I feel like Nintendo does a better job of this than the others, because a lot of times Nintendo will show, like, some gameplay and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm gonna miss E3. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I do. There is a part of me that is super nostalgic for, like, I remember back in the day, E3 would be going on, and I'd be switching in between. I don't remember. I'd be switching between G4 and maybe Spike or something. I know Spike used to cover some game stuff, but yeah, I'd switch in between like two channels and see different coverages. Super nostalgic. I have fond memories of E3.
I do too.
So I guess kind of the final part to this little section is I felt like it might be kind of cool. Let me switch over to kind of... we kind of went on a tangent about E3 itself, but back to EA. Maybe a large reason why that they canceled their event is if you look at their website, there are only 2 titles they have slated coming this upcoming year. Some PGA Sports title, and they have Dead Space Reboot, which I'm a huge Dead Space fan. I wouldn't say I'm excited for a reboot just because, hey, I think the first game is still perfect. Go back and play that one, but that's an old man gamer's opinion. But yeah, I guess it would be kind of cool, I thought, to kind of go back through some of the titles that they had from the last year or two. So, I don't know. Are there any titles that you felt like you actually really enjoyed from them, or, I mean, maybe titles like Battlefield?
That's game of the century right there.
There were a couple. They did have coming off of It Takes Two, which again that was the game of the year apparently for many people.
Yeah, no, they had some good releases last year. I mean, It Takes Two. I mean, we played through it, and we have. I don't think either of us would probably put it.
I really wanted to play this game, Lost in Random, but I never got the chance.
But It Takes Two was good. I mean, you had the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect. I played through all those, which someone needs to give me back my copy.
Yeah, I actually really want to play 2 here in a bit, or maybe sometime next month. I think I'm going to play 2. The Squadrons.
Squadrons I played a little bit of. That was
A lot of
pretty
people
good.
really like Squadrons.
Fallen Order. That
Fallen.
wasn't
I
last year,
loved
though.
Fallen Order.
That wasn't last
I
year.
think that was
like-
2019.
yeah.
But yeah, Fallen Order might be my favorite game. Well, other than Mass Effect, but that's just because it's Mass Effect. But yeah, Fallen Order, as far as like new games EA has made lately, that's probably my favorite game that they've kind of popped out.
Yeah, well, EA is very much, the house that, Madden and FIFA built. So as long as they have those games going, they probably don't have the push to have too many new IPs trying to be, thrown out there. So.
Yep. So R.I.P. EA Play Live. May you rest in not live, not live. Haha.
Good try. That was a good attempt.
Yeah, so I guess that's all we have to say. We're gonna move on. I guess the final thing I just wanted to kind of touch on is I'm not quite sure how I'm even gonna do this. I'm sure people are like, "Oh, I love hearing that." We'll just switch over. I mean, we don't have to go through these trailers exactly, but there were a couple new game announcements or trailers this past week, and I felt like it might be kind of fun just to kind of, I don't know, give our like surface level opinions or talk about if we're excited for these games at all. The first one for me was Sony actually did a specific state of play for Hogwarts Legacy, which is, a new game that takes place in the Harry Potter world, I guess. And I did want to bring up something very specific of you, Phoenix.
Specific of me. Oh.
Yeah, or a question, I should say. Or I guess I should ask first, do you care about the Harry Potter license at all?
I like Harry Potter well enough. I enjoyed the movies. I think, the Magical World of Harry Potter in Orlando is fantastic.
I still haven't been there.
Oh, it's so cool. You could take the train in between Islands of Adventure and, Universal. No. I haven't really cared much about, I don't really care about this game, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy the general movies. I never read the books, and I don't really dig into, the lore or anything, but I think they're, engaging enough. I like the world building and some of the characters.
Where I kind of wanted to get at is, I'm not going to go into specifics, but I'm sure you've heard, but J.K. Rowling has been, she's been kind of a questionable figure to a lot of people over the last few years. She's made a lot of statements, and we're not going to go into specifics as to whether you agree or disagree with anything she said. I just wanted to know, do things like that, when they pop up, do they tend to affect your liking or disliking or your affinity for or excitement for anything that comes out for someone who, does something like that?
So, oh man, that's a big question, Chaz. You hurt my brain a little bit. In
Again,
general,
I'm not asking you if you agree or disagree with anything. I just mean, like for anything, like it could be even something not as serious as anything like that. Like, does a creator's personal life ever does that ever affected your liking for their creative thing for their projects?
I am a bit of two minds about this. So in general, my
no specifics. I don't want to
my initial
burn
feeling
my
is
house down.
I don't necessarily need to know a lot about the cook who's cooking my dinner, if that makes sense. Like, if the dinner tastes good and looks good, I'm pretty happy. Now, at the same time, if the creator or the people behind it are doing things that you don't personally want to support, and this I think is the issue. Like, it's not a matter of if this is going to be a good quality product or not. Like, this could be a fantastic game, but the thing is, when you buy this game, you support people, right? And this is true for anything. I mean, honestly, whether it's this game or J.K. Rowling, I mean, I have a similar situation with something else that I do that I won't support through purchasing certain products and whatnot. Even though the product could be great, you financially support people by buying their product or using their services or whatnot, and that might not be something you want to further. So I can definitely understand people want to take a stance in that regard, and this is not about if I agree or disagree with the stance for this particular situation, but I can respect and understand that for sure. Personally, when it comes to games for me, as I was saying already, I am already kind of just exhausted with all the dirty laundry. I'll just leave it at that. So, and maybe it's because I haven't played a game in a while. I'm just kind of chomping at the bit to like relax and play something that I don't want to think about it. And that's kind of a cop out answer.
I
so,
know it's a tough
it's
a tough question. I just thought it was super interesting because unfortunately for me it's all I can think about. Like I'm actually and not in a bad not in a bad or good way. I'm just saying like for me I don't allow a creator's personal dealings really affects my liking for their creation. I don't know. It's for some reason it's always been something I can kind of detach myself from. I mean, granted, I guess it would depend on how terrible that person is, and it's like, saying some things that are questionable is different than doing questionable things, and it's like, I don't know. For me, I'm able to detach. I don't know if that's a good or a bad aspect. I don't know. It's just something I can't help but like think about. Like the movies. Have you seen any of those movies? What is it? The what's the new Harry Potter?
The Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, apparently those movies are going through a bunch of problems as well with like, I don't know. It's all just so interesting. I don't know. I don't know why I felt compelled to make that the first question.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a weird just side effect of the world we live in now. Like,
I didn't mean to go so deep.
Oh no, this is nothing new for everybody. I think we're all seeing it. Like, you're able to see behind the curtain so much easier now for everything, and it tarnishes stuff. Here's the thing: I think people need to remember too is nobody is perfect. Nobody's going to agree with everybody's standpoint on things. And they could be valid standpoints or not. I know people take a lot of offense to certain things, and sometimes it's very much warranted. But I don't know. It definitely tarnishes experiences that we never would have had to consider before. Like, you go back 20 years, you didn't have to know about I don't know, a CEO's dirty business and how it then affects the products that you buy from them. I don't know.
It kind of, I guess another thing it kind of stemmed from is like, I actually love the Harry Potter movies. I loved the majority of them. I would say the movies 1 through 4 are like awesome movies. Like even the books, they're almost as good as the books. And it's something I thought about because I was just like, it would be kind of disappointing to play this game and to like not have any references to those movies, which from what I understand, I maybe I haven't looked into it, but I don't think they're gonna have any references towards that world, because from what I think she owns the rights to all of Harry Potter, but technically Warner Brothers owns the rights to the Wizarding World. Yeah, and it's like, it's such an interest, and from what I understand, they have really tried their best to distance, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how other people might feel. Like, would other people feel disappointed if there's no references to Dumbledore? There's no Harry Potters.
Sure, people could be disappointed. Like, I mean, I know people are always gonna be like, "Well, I'm open to a new story," and I'm sure that's true. But with a world like this, that, I mean, yes, has a big lore around it. At its core, though, it's about that story of Harry Potter and Voldemort and everything. Even with like Fantastic Beasts, it's building up to like the Voldemort stuff, right? It already had Tom Riddle in it and all that, so it's like, I mean, if that movie didn't have that thread, would it be as interesting? I don't know. I mean, I didn't love those movies, to be honest. I don't know if you saw any of them. I know I saw the first one.
Which ones?
I saw the Fantastic Beasts.
I saw them. I thought the second one was terrible. I didn't mind the first one. Thought the second one was a pretty terrible movie.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think you're right. If this game comes out and has no, any kind of references or association with that world or the original characters, like, it's gonna be a hit. I mean, like, I want to say a hit, like it's gonna take a hit. That's what I'm looking for. Not necessarily be a hit. Maybe it'll be a hit. I don't know.
I think this movie has to be a hit because I couldn't imagine. Well, I just think it's such a weird like gamble to take. Like choosing an IP that's. I'll be honest. I feel like the Harry Potter IP is like, not to like. I feel like it's just not as strong as it once was. Like, granted, this game maybe is their attempt to, like, try and rejuvenate it, but as far as I know, those couple movies that came out haven't done a heck of a whole lot.
Yeah, well, I think what pulled a lot of the Harry Potter, and I could be very wrong, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan in the world, but I think what, really encouraged people to, get so involved with it for so long was they wanted to see that original narrative all the way through, right? The correlation between Harry and Voldemort and kind of their big culmination, their battle, all that kind of stuff. How was it going to end? Once it ended, that probably ended a lot of people's interest to this world. Like, not saying it isn't, very fleshed out, has a lot of cool stuff in the lore. Like, and I'm looking at the gameplay now. It looks pretty cool. I mean, it has good,
were you watching?
visual.
Should I go back? Or are you watching on your own?
I'm watching your
Yeah.
your stuff on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You broke my train of thought, Chaz. No.
Oh,
no.
sorry.
What was I saying?
You said I was watching your. I was watching your gameplay thing.
It's all gone. No, my brain. No.
What a perfect timing.
No, it's terrible. Oh, okay, I remember.
You saved the channel.
I don't know about that. I'm probably ruining the channel.
Maybe we won't lose as many viewers now.
Well, let me talk about it before I forget again.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, I am sure that because the original story of Harry Potter and his crew ended, you lost a lot of interest after that point. And I think that's very obvious just looking at the new movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have Harry Potter in them. They have very few ties to him, some, but they're not continuing that story in much of a meaningful way. So I think people are just kind of like, I'm good.
I'm that exactly as me, man. Like, I loved that series, and it ended pretty greatly. Like, I was very... I mean, I'm sure
that's... I know you haven't been there. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off while I'm thinking about it. Like, not that I don't think this IP has any room to do cool stuff with, but even if I think about how they're using it in the theme parks, I mean, even though think about how they're phrasing it, it's the magical world or wizarding world of Harry Potter, right? And a lot of the queues there have Harry Potter in it. Like, the rides have characters from Harry Potter, like specifically the story, not just the world. You've got what's his face, Hagrid's, whatever that ride's called. Like, they're pulling directly from that narrative. It's not just the world and the lore. I mean, that's part of it, but they're pulling from that core story. People want to go and be a part of that original narrative, and I don't know. I think you're right. I think the IP has been weaker since they moved away from that. Maybe there's a way they can reinvigorate it if this character we're looking at, I don't know anything about him, is interesting enough.
I believe it's a...
Oh, it's a self-made character.
It's a self-made character, yes. From what I understand.
Of course, okay, so to kind of take the flip side of this, if I'm not thinking about IP, if I'm not thinking about Harry Potter IP, let's think about Star Wars for a minute. So when Jedi Fallen Order came out, that was a completely separate thing. I mean, there were a few references to, mainline story stuff, but that was its own deal. New character.
I actually really like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that ended up working out really well. So maybe I'm just, speaking out of the wrong end here, and I'm completely off the mark with it. I'm not the biggest Harry Potter guy, and maybe somebody's watching this gameplay.
I will agree. I think this game could, if this game is good, it could do far more for the... It's not, I guess you can't even call it the Harry Potter license. It's just the Wizarding World or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think this game could do far more than that third movie could ever do. Whenever that comes out.
Potentially. You got to think, though, I mean, more people are probably going to be able to engage with the movie than the game. Like, there's a lot of people that they're never going to play this game for whatever reason. But movies are easy for people to kind of, give a shot on the weekend. So, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say which one's going to be more invigorative to the
For someone
franchise.
like me, the game would be more invigorative than the movie.
Sure.
I'm kind of out on the movie.
Yeah. I will say, and I'm going to seem like a dum-dum for a second, I actually hadn't watched any of this gameplay, and I'm looking at it now.
There's all sorts of different things to do.
It's far more varied than I thought. I mean, it looks like it's really well animated, and the gameplay looks pretty polished. Like, I don't know, this might actually end up being pretty cool. I'm more intrigued than I was, so I'm slowly converting myself as I talk. Chaz, help me, stop me.
Yeah. So, sorry for throwing that kind of curveball at you to open. I don't know. It was all I can kind of...
It was interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy around just the Harry Potter and everything going on with, Rowling and all that. So I get the interest there.
Yeah, it's just to it's a very interesting dynamic. I don't know. And then gaming is not only where like I'm interested. Like this happens with music, with like the king of pop type stuff. It's like I don't know. There's all sorts of different IPs that you could look at and be like, oh, is it okay that I still like this? Should I not like this? It's
So
just...
I'll get a little personal here for just a minute, and I was debating if I would, but well, why not? So to tell a little bit about my personal life, one of my jobs out of several is I am a worship leader at a church, and the reason I bring that up is we recently stopped playing music from certain ministries because we don't want to support them financially, and by playing their songs, we end up supporting them. So that's a very similar situation we have here, right? You have a creator or an artist that by supporting their product, you support them. So I can definitely relate to that stance of, hey, I don't support this person and I don't want to financially support where they're going with it. So I think that's a very valid concern. I know what you're saying as far as just kind of ignoring it and turning your brain off to it, but to a certain extent that's a naive approach to it because it's fine for you, but there's a larger scope to who this is impacting. So I know I got a little personal and maybe it's a little too much to go into,
No, I don't
but
mind.
there's definitely a correlation there that I can definitely kind of get behind and understand because it was a big stance that we made for what we were doing. It was a hit too. We really didn't want to do it because we like playing certain songs and certain music, but we weren't comfortable with where our money was now going to, so we decided not to support it. So
And you could go down the rabbit hole with this thing. It could be like you can go into companies, you can go into buying products. It's like, where's your product coming from? What is you could go down any number of rabbit holes.
Yeah, I mean, I will not fault anybody for feeling that they need to take a stance on something. And it's not that I agree with your stance. Like, that's a whole different thing, and I'm definitely not going down that rabbit hole at all. But, if you feel there's conviction there, you should, follow your heart and support those convictions, I think, to a certain extent. So I'll leave it there. We'll go down too many rabbit holes if I'm not careful.
Well, there you go, guys. That's the ChazmaN podcast getting really spicy for you. We're bringing the heat. All right. Well, there was we got one last thing just to talk about. We can kind of round this up. What are we at? 1:45. Sheesh.
Always 2 hours. We
I know.
Need to assume that's where we're at now.
I know. So yeah, talk my audio down. Another thing that got announced is Ghostbusters: Spirits Unleashed. The announcement trailer. This is very. I'm kind of curious to hear your opinions on it. Or I'll let you go first. What did you think? What are you excited about for this one?
So, and this is weird because I, in just general terms, am not the biggest Ghostbusters fan. Like, I enjoy the movie.
I like the first movie. That's that's all I like about Ghostbusters.
I enjoy the first movie.
Oh, and that game, that 360 game.
That's what I'm coming back to. So, like, in general, like, the Ghostbusters IP as a whole, I'm like, whatever, it's Ghostbusters. But I loved the 360 game they put out. I guess the 360 era game.
And I played it recently. My first time playing it was like a year or two ago.
Like, the story was a lot of fun. It's basically Ghostbusters 3 if it was done well. And I personally really liked the multiplayer in that game. I don't know if it was popular for a lot of people, but it was very much that asynchronous, like, you're not directly competing against the other players, like, one-on-one, but I think it was just, like, who could catch the most ghosts or something like that. But I had a lot of fun doing that. I thought it was, executed relatively well. Granted, that was at the time when I was playing some cheesy multiplayers. Like, I got real big into the BioShock 2 multiplayer, so I probably don't have any room to speak. But I really enjoy the Ghostbusters multiplayer, and this feels very much like that. It's asymmetric, so it's 1-on-4, so clearly it's you and X amount of people chasing down
that was
a
a
ghost.
short trailer. Oh crap!
Yeah, they didn't show much, and I mean, I'm not even looking so much like the graphics on this. I mean, it's probably not the best looking game because I like kind of the cartoony style they're going for. I think that will work well. Here's the other thing I'm really kind of interested in. It's made by the same people that did that Friday the 13th game. The game that I tried to get everybody to play like 3 years ago, and we could never do it.
And they made Predator. They had a Predator game.
That's right.
That was not very beloved last year, or maybe the year before.
Yeah, but the Friday the 13th game was, and man, I never got to really play it. I hopped in like 2 matches, but I really enjoy those kind of games. Like I've more and more started shifting away from competitive multiplayer stuff. Part of it is I just don't have the time to quote unquote get good and stay good. I don't want to be cursed out by 10-year-olds while I'm trying to just relax for a little while. So I'm actually very much for these kind of asynchronous games where it's got a little bit of competitive nature, but it's more cooperative, and you get to hang out with friends, kind of thing. So I'm pretty stoked for this, to be honest. It was a very nice surprise to see that they're kind of resurrecting the Ghostbusters franchise for, some kind of gaming-related project.
See, that's why I wanted you to go first. Is I kind of have no interest at
That's
all.
fair.
Like, I will play because you guys play, but it's just not the game type I'm interested in. It'll be fun because I'll be playing with you guys, and yeah, maybe there's some enjoyment out of, like, some Ghostbusters things, but when I initially heard about this, I was thinking more of that 360 game, which, again, I'm going to pile on, like you said, but I love that game. That was great. Like, that was, like, a really fun, I think it was, like, 10 to 15 hour thing.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that. And that's kind of more along the lines of what I was hoping for. And
Did you play any of the multiplayer from that game?
I did not. But yeah.
It's one of those things, too, that I will not play forever. Like, this will be... For a month, I'll probably spend a lot of time hopping on and doing this. That's what I do with the other Ghostbusters game, and then I'll hop off it.
I just feel like this is the kind of game where in like 1 or 2 sessions you'll get the gist of it. It's like, yeah, maybe less than that.
Yeah, and to be fair, if the core gameplay, loop isn't for you, then yeah, it's not gonna be your favorite thing. It's very much kind of a hangout game, where you just get together with friends, kind of shoot the breeze a little bit and play something that's kind of cartoony and off the wall. And I don't know. I'm kind of digging where this is going, but I totally get if that's not, your bag for whatever reason.
I mean, I should say I'm super excited. I can't wait to stream this on my channel, and I can't wait for all of you to watch and enjoy.
Oh, come on. I'm already tearing down everybody. I'm like, I don't care about spicy news. I don't care about all the controversy. I'm a terrible podcaster.
Oh, you're good. But yeah, we kept that last segment a little short. We're coming in just under 2 hours. There you go, huh?
So short. Wasn't it supposed to be like we put a timer up, like 15 minutes per thing, we'll be done in an hour?
Well, we started. I thought you were gonna hop on at 9, to be honest, but I
thought it was 9:30.
Yeah, you hopped on at 9:30. I thought you were gonna get on like right at. Anyways, that's just people seeing our conversations behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't see me when I'm trying to help you set up OBS.
Oh, it was. Well, I messed it up, but. But yeah, guys, I guess that's kind of all the major news we had. I think kind of something we were planning on doing is we have our new little section called. I didn't even name it. Earlier in the episode, yeah, we have that little section where we talked about a game or anything we're kind of doing throughout the week. We're gonna, I don't know what I was gonna call it. I would say what you playing, what you doing. That's our little 5-minute section at the very beginning that we kind of touched on with Tunic.
If you're listening to this, suggest a better name.
Suggest a better name. Anything, I don't know. It's but yeah, I guess something we were planning on doing is the new Halo. What is it? Halo TV series dropped tonight. The first episode.
Yeah. I actually forgot all about it.
Yeah, so
terrible podcaster.
Yeah, so tomorrow, send me your code so I can watch it on Paramount Plus.
Don't tell anybody that we're sharing logins. They'll pull a Netflix and try to charge us more because we're sharing access.
If they start doing that, I'm dropping Netflix. Sorry. I don't know. Are you using mine? I don't even know.
No, we got our own. I thought you were using ours.
No, I have my own.
I don't know who's using ours anymore then.
The neighbors probably.
Probably.
But yeah, like I think next week we'll plan on that instead of because I probably maybe won't start a new game until then. But yeah, I think we'll start with that. We'll kind of give our opinions, our thoughts on the opening episode. I'm hesitant. What about you? I'm kind of hesitantly excited. I mean,
I am not feeling excited. There's already red flags.
I've already kind of watched a few videos of people talking about it.
I mean, I'm trying not to look at any reviews, but I mean, my first red flag, and I'm not sure how I'm going to come back from this. They're Cortana, man. Like
It's the actual voice actor.
Yeah, she's not blue. She's got to be blue. No, I mean maybe that's a stupid thing for some people, but
I have less a problem with that than them not bringing back Steve Downes. I think that's like No Marty or
They're
Donald?
both kind of well, Marty O'Donnell, you got issues with, I think,
Yeah.
licensing and blah blah blah. But I don't know. Like, this is always tricky when you get into any kind of adaptation, especially video game adaptations. Like, you're never gonna be able to please everybody well. Like, there are some people are like, that show needs to look just like the game, and some people be like, well, no, it looks terrible if it looks like the game. But there are some things that I feel like you shouldn't or can't change. And Cortana is just so iconic as a little blue hologram. Like, I don't know. I just maybe I'll watch it and I'll feel differently, but I'm gonna have a hard time. Let's just say that right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't want to. From what I'm hearing, the first episode is pretty good. From what I've watched though, after that is when when things start getting.
Is the whole series already up there, or
No, it's just the first episode.
Okay.
So it's just episode 1. Each week they'll release a new episode. Apparently, early big YouTubers got like the first couple episodes or whatever. But yeah, apparently episode 1's pretty good. So.
I mean, I will say what I saw of Chief and a few of the other characters, that looked pretty good. Like, maybe there's hope. I don't know.
I will say my worry.
Okay, I'm gonna ask. How do you feel about them showing his face?
I don't want to see his face.
Yeah.
It's not Master Chief. I don't care what Master Chief looks like. He could look like The Rock underneath. I'm not gonna care. Like it's. I don't need to know what he looks like. I prefer knowing Master Chief has a helmet on.
Yeah, I mean, I know technically, okay, so he's technically been unmasked. Like, what was it, at the end of Halo 4, they kind of showed a little bit of him, and in the books, he's really well described, but...
It's not an important point. Like, it's just...
It's not, and also there's no way, I think, to ever really satisfy that reveal. Like, people have probably built up so many different thoughts of, like, what Master Chief is under that helmet for those who care about it, so how do you live up to that expectation? I just don't know if you really can.
I'll just say
it's not really necessary, I don't think.
No, I agree. I'll just say my big worry, and something that isn't answered yet, I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen, though. My big worry is that Master Chief is just going to be, like, he'll be the main character, but he'll be, like, the side main character. I think the lady you see in this trailer I've seen, I think they're going to try and make her the main character. And I think...
Was she Halsey? Is that where she's supposed to play, or someone else?
No, there's another girl part of the Resistance or something. I think the show is gonna totally make her the main, and I think the show is gonna focus a lot on the UNSC, and I don't think it's gonna focus on Master Chief at all. I just have a feeling.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, because we've already had movies that have kind of done that. I think something too that kind of is a red flag. I know we're not trying to talk about this much now, but
I know.
I'll say it anyway. I know I think it was the director. Like, he basically was trying to give rationale for why he was gonna, show Master Chief's face. He's like, well, I don't think that's a good way to kind of plan out a show. Again, how can you have a whole show without ever showing the guy's face? And all I could think of was The Mandalorian. And I'll tell you,
I've never
seen
The Mandalorian. So.
Well, I personally, for me, I wish they would have never shown the Mandalorian's face. Like,
Isn't
I think the show
Pedro
was
Pascal or something.
Yeah, which I like Pedro Pascal. He's fine. But I don't feel like the show was enhanced at all by me seeing his face. And honestly, I mean, I knew it was Pedro Pascal, but I had a harder time, I think, actually connecting the character to that face after I saw it. Like, I think it worked better him just being a helmet. I think it was plenty of motive. Like, I just don't think you had to take his helmet off. So that's kind of the rationale I'm coming through with Halo. Like, done well with a good actor and a good director, you don't need to see his face. If they want to have kind of the pseudo reveal, you could have his back turned, he takes off his helmet, and you get like a silhouette or something all cinematic-y. But I don't know. I feel like some of their decisions are already rubbing me the wrong way.
There is
I don't know if you saw the quote too, where they were like, the guy or the director didn't even really consider the game when writing the show.
No, he said he hadn't played any of the games.
But I think he even said specifically, like, he didn't want to be hindered by the game, which is why he didn't do it.
Didn't want to be. Yeah, I read that. He didn't want to be hindered, which is like, dude, what are you?
To be
are you
fair,
trying to intentionally turn
the
me
Halo,
off?
Yeah, I mean, just even saying that, I think is a bad way, whether you believe it or not. and yes, the Halo universe is bigger than the games. There's a huge expanded lore that people are all into. They got books and all of that. I'm not saying that's not great, but the core of Halo is those games. I mean, that's what stemmed it. So to not consider the games,
the core of Halo is Chief, Cortana, and the Covenant. That is, I mean,
at some level, it goes back to what we say about Harry Potter, right? I'm not saying you can't come up with, a story that isn't cool without Harry Potter and those characters, but that's what most people are going to care about. I don't know. I don't know. I'm talking myself down. I haven't watched the show yet. I should be at an optimistic standpoint going into it, but I don't know. Red flags all over.
It'll be fun to see. I heard the first episode's really fun. That's to
watch it right now, Chaz.
To be honest, that's all I'm expecting. I'm expecting to very much like the first episode, and then to be honest, it's kind of what I was expecting, even without watching videos of other people talk about it. I was expecting to not like the entire show. I think it's going to make bad decisions, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough.
But yeah, so expect that next week. I think maybe we'll start off kind of just giving our kind of base level opinions on what we thought about it. But yeah, I guess we've done it all, guys. Anything else to say before we head on out, Phoenix?
Oh no, that's it. We'll try to cut this off just shy of 2 hours for once. So.
Well, let me know how it go. Maybe Phoenix next week can come back and tell you how Tunic's going.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I don't know if I'm going to get to play it anytime soon. Those 2 hours of gaming last night was probably all the gaming I'm going to have probably for the rest of the month, maybe part of next month.
Jeez.
But, it's all good. It's all good. I do want to go back and play it some. I honestly don't know if I'm so inclined to finish the game yet, but I do want to play it a little bit more.
Yeah, you've at least motivated me to try one more time. But yeah, as always, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Phoenix. It's a blast talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, there's another episode of the ChazmaN podcast done. Hope you guys enjoy it, and we will see you guys next week. All right, guys.
Bye.
Love you. Adios.